Hi, everyone. And here we are again on another Thursday at noon Eastern Time. This is Toni Weel. And for now, I have with me Sara from Virtuous Unicorns. And we're waiting for Marie. And now I wonder, does she realize it's Eastern Time noon? Because she's not here. And she did get the Zoom link to join us. Because I would really love to hear Marie talking about limited beliefs. She did a beautiful little video, and it was only less than 15 minutes long. I actually have it on top of the chat so everybody can hear it. And it was actually, her title was more about define time. And what I picked up of it, it was limited beliefs. And it's not only limited beliefs in what we can do and what is important, but it was also about time. And she had a lot to share in that short video. So I hope everyone will listen to it. So the link is at the not pinned, but it is at the top of the chat. So if you can't see it, I'll post it again. But yeah, it was really interesting to learn that. Marie is could I say, an old client. She was actually, when I just started out, she was one of my clients. So we did talk a lot about, of course, her healing and what she was going through. And I followed her with her miraculous Mondays often. And not always, because of time, our limited belief that we don't have the time. Of course we do, but anyway, it was I still hope that she is gonna come on. I don't know what happened, but I would love to have her here, and if not today, then we'll figure it out another day. We always have enough to talk about, I think. And I see that JP is here, and Grant, and Ingrid. Hi, Ingrid.
I'm
Jacob.
trying to say hello to everybody in the chat.
Yeah, I see Jacob from the Netherlands is here again.
Awesome. We love everybody in our chat. Thank you all so much for coming and listening to us each week.
Yeah,
after all this time.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about that too, because I have not listened to Marie aside from the Bible decodes, but the one you sent me, I did listen to it, and that was pretty good, about talking about divine time and timing. And it's just, when you're in the flow, you just kind of go with the flow. Now, I took it as too, like, you don't want to lazy and be slothful, that kind of thing. But as you're going throughout your day, living virtuously and building your arcs, you just accept time as how it is. And when things arrive, you either, work on them or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was pretty neat. And it looks like she's joining.
Hey. Yeah, Marie just came on. Guys, we were almost afraid we had to do this without you.
No, I'm here. I'm so sorry. For whatever reason, I had to reset my password. Sometimes that just happens,
Yeah, so you're very welcome, and we'd love to have you here. We were just introducing you and talking about that almost 15-minute video that you made about divine time, and what I picked up in there at most was actually the limited beliefs. And I was just explaining about how I met you. You were my client when I just started out. And that over the years, I followed some of your miraculous Mondays, not all of them. But and I made a comment like, yeah, I didn't really have the time. And there we go. We don't have the time. Of course we do.
Right.
So yeah, happy to have you here. And yeah, maybe you can expand a little of what you do. I mean, I think a lot of people do know you about yoga classes, and we would definitely like to learn more about that too, and how important it actually can be for your well-being. And I was thinking yesterday about my birthday is in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the reverse of 17. I kind of like that.
Nice. Oh, wow.
So for our age, yeah, Marie, I always say I'm forever 38, so we stick with that. And I'm not going to say the number, you say the reverse 17th. I kind of like that, so I'm going to keep that one in. But it's like with yoga, we have yoga for the elderly now, for the stiffer amongst us. Because when I look at yoga and I see my granddaughter is, amongst other things, is teaching yoga. And she is this very, kind of petite, very slender young woman. And when you look at it, it's like, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm way too stiff for that. So maybe we can get into to the point that even if you are older, if you are stiffer, if you are not, as agile as you see all the others who do yoga, that it can still work for us and it can still benefit us. So, okay, now I stop talking and let you go.
Good. Well, I appreciate the conversation so much because I think that there's a misconception around what yoga is and what it's supposed to look like. In the West, we've definitely, my yoga teacher would say, we've hijacked the yoga. Or I've had another teacher say it's the era of Barbie doll yoga. And, yoga is the practice of stilling the mind and returning us to our natural state of being. And if we simplify it and really get down to the essence of what it is, that has really nothing to do with age or body type, culture, where you're from, what your religion is, or anything like that. It really is a practice of learning how to discipline our minds. I think all of us in this container and in this community know that, our minds are very powerful. And we've been programmed into fear-based thinking. And so a lot of the things that we think are make-believe. That's what my teacher would say. That thinking is make-believe. And so when I started practicing when I was 20, and then I did my teacher training when I was 24, we learned that you are the one not only observing your thoughts, you are the one observing yourself, observing your thoughts. So we use movement, we use breath, we use all of those things to teach us how to sit still. And you can sit still in a chair and you can sit still on the floor cross-legged. You could even lay down and simply observe yourself thinking. And in our training programs, we speak a lot about the distinction between your inner critic and your inner teacher. And all of us have both. All of us have an inner critic, and we know what that sounds like. The inner critic talks to us about how we're not doing good enough, about how we don't have enough time. We're not flexible. We're too old. We're too stiff. We didn't eat the right things. The inner critic is constantly trying to keep you engaged in that kind of thinking, because when you're engaged in that kind of thinking, you're not in the moment, right here and right now, listening to the inner teacher. And the inner teacher, in contrast, speaks to us in a kind and loving way and uses everything in our life, every circumstance, every relationship to teach us and to guide us deeper and deeper into the truth of who we really are. And so I think that what happens for a lot of us when we start to practice yoga, it's about handstands, it's about touching your toes. And all of those things are fun and they're important. We need to be able to touch our feet. We need to be able to tie shoes, climb stairs, like basic functionality that in our culture, because we are so sedentary, our body stiffens and it becomes very, very dense. And in the practice, you learn how to be agile. And I have a friend and colleague who he calls it, I think it's called accessible yoga. And I just saw earlier this morning, he was demonstrating, he had like on his Instagram page, a woman, in the cute little yoga outfit, upside down, doing handstands and opening and closing her legs. And then he had himself laying down on the floor with his arms over his head, laying flat and just opening his legs against a wall. So, in our system, in the It's Yoga system, we always talk about function over form. The function of the posture is to keep us healthy in our bodies so that we can feel better and be more adept to shift our thinking in a more positive direction. And so we learn in the practice, and I'll hand the mic back in just a moment, that we are the ones observing. Our minds are powerful. And if we find ourselves in those limiting beliefs about who we are, about who somebody else is, then that actually makes us heavier and denser, because our mind and our body are connected. The body in and of itself is a neutral learning device. And so when you're in those frequencies, you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling discomfort, you're feeling stiffness, you're feeling frustrated. So in those moments, it's a great learning opportunity to just observe that that's where you're at. And then we have yogic practices, or just a deep breath, or just a choice that says, I am willing to see this differently. And when we're willing to see it differently, when we're willing to say, instead of I'm stiff or I'm old, I'm present, and I'm willing to breathe, and I'm willing to bend my knees so that I can touch my toes, that indicates to our inner teacher, to our higher voice, that we're present and we are able in that moment to make a different choice in terms of where we're putting our power, because so much of our reality is based upon what we think and what we believe. I'm trusting that makes sense, because we're the ones with the power. So if we are walking around going, well, I can't change anything, the world is what it is, we're disempowering ourselves to the extent that we decide that I can change my reality because I'm choosing the higher road. I'm choosing to think more positively. I'm choosing to be more responsible and accountable for my thoughts. Then we're practicing yoga, whether we know it or not. It's just deciding in the moments that we are in the heaviness that we can make a different choice. And that's what yoga teaches us. We become more flexible. We become more self-observant. The practice of yoga is really about self-realization, realizing who I am. And when I'm not in my highest, that's almost an illusion. I'm just in the schoolroom right now. And at any moment, I can walk out those doors. It's not like you're in first grade again and you just can't leave until 3:00, I hope that made sense. Is that kind of...
Well, it's interesting the way that you put it, because you're the first one I hear it explain it like this. And I like that. I like that a lot, because I've been told to do yoga from, probably the last 50 years. And I just never got into it. It was like, nah, that's not for me. But no, with you explaining it, it makes so much more sense.
It's interesting because, in our teacher training programs, and we're in a training right now, and we have such a deep content. Like, there's so much to go through. We've got to go through all of the sun salutations and the standing poses and the seated and the finishing. We want to talk about contraindications and modifications and all of those things. But I find that we do spend equally, if not more time focusing on our off the mat experience. So off the mat is where most of our time is. You're only on your mat. Let's say if you are practicing yoga, maybe 20 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes, but it's how are you operating the rest of your day? And how did those deep breaths in the morning support you when you were super challenged because you were stuck in traffic, or you were going to be late to an appointment, or somebody said something you didn't like? Yoga is so much more than the physical. And I find that in the West, we've really we've made a bit of a mess of it. And so it's almost like a redirect, like you're saying, like everyone has said to me, you should do yoga. And for all of these years, I've had that thought. But yoga is simply saying, the yogic philosophy, the first 3 yoga sutras, the first one says, now is the time for yoga. So right now is the time for yoga. So right now I'm going to pull my navel in and take a deep breath.
That makes sense. So in a way, it's actually like a combination of breathing and meditation and a pose.
We call it a moving, breathing meditation because
Well,
we
there you go.
yeah, because we decide it is a meditation because I'm learning how to still my mind because our minds are not trained. We don't necessarily I'm trying to support my children in learning how to discipline their minds and how to turn the direction of their minds, because the second sutra or yogic philosophy says yoga is stopping the way the mind turns. The restraint of the modifications of the mind stuff is yoga. It's stopping this conversation around how I'm not good enough or he's not good enough. Whatever. It's stopping that. And then the third sutra says, then I see myself and then I abide in my own nature. Then I am who I'm designed to be. And then I can be of service to others. But if I'm just in my thinking mind, even thinking that I've got my life together and I'm doing great, is that really how I'm feeling? And is my thoughts and my heart aligned? Because only then do I know who I really am. And then I'm of authentic service in the world. And so whether you're practicing yoga or not, to the extent that you're willing to look at your process, what's happening in between your ears, is it positive or negative? Because beyond the positive and negative is the neutral mind. And that's where we're going to go. And in that neutral mind, we can accept all things as they are. We don't have to change anything.
Well, we came back.
And that's big.
We kind of came back to the limited beliefs that we have about ourselves, about everything.
Yeah, we do. I think what has happened to humanity is just that we've been stripped of our powers, and our power lies in our capacity to train our programming. And if our programming is disempowered, I don't have any time, I'm not lovable, I'm in judgment. Judgment is so toxic. And so if I'm in those places, I'm not creating from my heart, because all of us, we want that. I really believe that everybody's good inside, but it's because our thoughts are just so sporadic and turning in a direction of negativity. And that's the limiting beliefs. We have to notice the limiting beliefs in the moment and then reestablish ourselves in beliefs and thought systems that are broader and more expansive. So the easiest thing for what I tell our trainings and what I tell myself is am I willing to see this differently? Because if I am, then I will. But if I'm not, if I'm convinced that I'm right and you're wrong, then that's just where I am. That's the reality I'm going to create. And then I'm going to actually see all of the ways in which I'm right and you're wrong. I'm not saying that whatever happens in our relationships isn't real and maybe they were wrong. But if you're willing to see it differently, you might actually find a thread of compassion. Or maybe they're just having a bad day. I was talking to my 8-year-old daughter around, someone at her school who they call the mean girl. And I thought, well, why are we locking her into that? She's only 8. Maybe she had a hard day. Maybe whatever it is, maybe she didn't have lunch. Maybe she's hungry. It's but if we can be more compassionate with each other, that means we're being more compassionate with ourselves. Then we can start to see our realities change. And from that place, we start to really serve and start to see more positive effects because we're willing to move into a more positive place. We're not stuck in our limiting beliefs of she's mean, I'm not. Well, that's troublesome long term. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it's interesting what you say about being judgmental. I mean, in a way, we all have it in us. And my husband is on the road 5 days a week, and he can be, if I hear him sometimes about the drivers on the road, and it's okay, God, listen, Willem, he may have had a bad day, he may have had a fight with his partner, who knows, or something else happened, or what you say, he could be hungry, or whatever else is going on. But I don't want to live with constantly judging things. We do it anyway. I mean, it's you have to be very consciously aware to get away of that. And the same goes for those limited beliefs. Now, there were a few questions, and I want to answer absolutely one. First is your information, how people can connect with you. You may look at it yourself, Marie, if they are all correct. I have your YouTube channel listed. I have your Facebook channel listed, and one of your websites. So I think those were the ones that I could think of for people to learn more about you. And JP, if you have questions, the link for the Zoom call is at the top, so you can. It's pinned, so you can come on. He had a question if he's not coming on yet or can. One of the questions was, how did you get into yoga, and what made you go there, and how long have you been doing it?
So I'm going to be 43 on Sunday. So I started yoga when I was 20, and I got into it because I had I had some hip problems. I had 2 hip surgeries, and after really try yoga, it's, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yoga's weird. I'm just not going to do it. And she just kept going on about it. And so finally I went to class with her, and as we were waiting at the door, I saw the class that was finishing, and the students in there were doing what's called lion's pose. And it's a really weird pose. Like, you're sticking out your tongue. You're like, letting out the fire. And I went to turn around. I was like, I told you, it's so weird. I'm not into it. And so she grabbed my hand. She said, no, that's the advanced class. Stay with it. It's just about moving and breathing, and it's awesome. And so I stayed for the class, and about halfway through, there was a gal in front of me who had a cast on her leg, on her ankle, on the bottom portion of her leg. And I thought, wow, and I kind of had this moment, and we were in this pose. It's just like a seated tree pose. It was like a simple stretch. We were bending forward. And I heard this voice in my head say, "This is so good for you." And I literally thought someone had said it out loud. And so I kind of stood up, but no one had said it. It was just inside my own consciousness. And I ended up signing up for the class. And it was, what I realized is that I was happier and I was healthier when I was showing up. Now, I was 20. Me and my girlfriends, we would finish yoga and we'd go drink wine and smoke and eat all the junk food and just do the things. But it started to I started to get much more in touch with how I was feeling. And I think that so much of it's like, don't cry, be happy. It's like, well, maybe I'm not. So how do we process that? And so that's kind of what yoga started for me. It was like, it gave me permission to really be honest around where I was in the moment and not be mad about it, not even try and change it. We talked earlier about limiting beliefs. Like, okay, I'm on purpose though. I'm in my limiting beliefs. And the reason that I'm seeing them is because it's a gift. It's like, I get to change them if I want to, but if I'm not having awareness, how can I heal it? We want to skip from awareness to vision. We want to have a great life. We want to be happy. Great. But what needs to be healed? And so, for example, with my hip, what I started to realize, and the reason that I had created this, I had a tumor in my right hip. By the time I got to my teacher training, this is 4 years later, we had a conversation on the chakras, on the energetic system. And we talked about the second chakra, which is, the physical has to do with the hips. And it was the teacher was talking a lot about guilt and shame and stepping away from your tribe, and that's what happened. Around 20, I left my family home. I was in college. I was exploring new things. And I had a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And when we constantly are thinking those thoughts, we're almost abusing our bodies. And so my body, being as sensitive as it is, created a wound, and I wouldn't even look at it as a bad thing. Like I look at those times and I think, and I've had a lot of these types of situations in my life where we manifest something physical. It was such a blessing because it was like, if you don't learn how to process guilt, shame, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, then your body breaks down. And we see that. We see so many people, coping with anxiety and with pain because they're not necessarily feeling it. They're not giving themselves permission to feel it. And so the yoga practice was that. It was what allowed me to kind of go into those dark places. Now, it's a journey. It's been over 20 years now. And still, I find that this mind, it's every day. It's every moment. It's every day. My teacher used to say, every day I wake up, I'm a beginner again. It doesn't necessarily stop because I did it yesterday. It's like, oh, I fasted yesterday. Well, and then today I ate a bunch of junk. Well, okay, that's where I'm at right now. I can forgive myself for that, but then I can make a better choice. And that's kind of like where the practice has led me. And I can't imagine my life without it. And a lot of the times it's not so physical. A lot of the times it's reading something spiritual, it's journaling, it's meditating, it's fasting, it's forgiveness practices. It's more than just, and I can do all the fun things. Gratefully, my body is strong, and it hasn't always been, but I've had kids and we've moved a lot and all of the things, but what has been consistent is a willingness to learn from life. And I think that that's what we could all use a little bit more from. And instead of just saying, well, this is what it is and this is correct. It's like, well, can we be more open to letting the universe, God, source, show us what something traumatic was actually about, or something difficult was about, or something painful was about? And can I sit in those feelings of discomfort? The asanas, the yoga postures teach us how to sit in an uncomfortable place and breathe. Like, can I be here and can I breathe? I'm uncomfortable. Do I need to just go drink, an alcoholic beverage? Or, and that's what we're doing. We're stuffing ourselves so that we don't have to feel it. And it's in the feeling, it's in being in that moment that I think we actually have the best breakthroughs. I hope that answered your question.
It's amazing how at sometimes when I just thank God for showing me, because if I did something that I shouldn't have done and then have the results from it and not pleasant, it's a constantly learning opportunity.
The best. Yeah. Oops, sorry.
And in doing better. Sara, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I did. Hi, Marie. I'm
nice
Sara, Virtuous Unicorns. But what I was going to say too, while you were talking, what spoke to me on the video that Toni sent me of you was talking about divine time. And I kind of felt like that might be a good time to ask the question as you're going through that. But I also wanted to say too, I've always rejected yoga. I remember back when I was also in my 20s, I thought, oh, for exercise, I'll do yoga. I mean, at least it's just stretching. It can't be hard. But yeah, yoga is very hard. And sitting in a position of uncomfort and still trying to be present and still trying to breathe, that just really spoke to me, because that doesn't even have to just be in yoga. That can be, I'm going through some rough stuff too with my personal life and with my work life right now. And I am sitting there every day thinking, well, because I'm still on grapes. I'm 5 days behind everybody else when they started. So I still have, I've had 5 days to go still. But I am finding myself like, okay, well, maybe I'll just go and I'll just cook something, even if it's a potato or something, because I'm seeking that comfort because I am uncomfortable. And it's not the grapes, it's just so much emotional stuff coming up in my life. Mm-hmm. And I am seeking that comfort. But after hearing you say that, it's like, I just need to sit here and absorb the uncomfort. I guess that could also be like when you're mourning somebody. After I lost my stepdad last year, I remember I had coffee because I was looking for that comfort in the morning, and I was, just looking for an outlet like that. And I ended up with a headache from it. But again, you do seek stuff to move back into comfort instead of being uncomfortable and being okay with it.
Yeah, because there's only, so much we can take sometimes given the place that we're at. And so, our body has stored so much trauma. I mean, so much stuff because our thoughts manifest matter. And so our body, it's like our skin suit, our meat body is absorbing the thoughts. And so it's not even in this, it could be, really, we could go deep and say, oh, well, this is ancestral. Like maybe that shame had less to do about A, B, and C, but it had to do with, 17 lifetimes ago or whatever. I don't know if that resonates with you, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to say here is that our bodies stored our negative thoughts and experiences and our unhealed, the stuff that's unhealed has to go somewhere. And so when you have stiffness or you have illness in the body, it has to do directly with what's happening in between our ears. And that level of responsibility and accountability is not something we should be like, it's not a punishment, it's not like, oh, I drank the coffee, or, I couldn't deal with the discomfort or the pain, the grief. I've had a lot of grief. We've all had so much. And so I think that the practice of yoga has really taught me how to be compassionate with myself. If we look at the first 7 years of our lives, like so much stuff happened that we just didn't understand. And like, I would say stuff happened yesterday that I didn't understand. So like, where is it going to go? And can I be compassionate with myself? And when you do any kind of fast or withdrawal from a comfort, in the external, it is coming to the surface, but it's coming for transmutation. It's coming up because we're the ones that are going to heal ourselves. And healing is simply just like embracing it, loving it, giving it to the divine. A lot of our pain is just because we're holding on to it because we've stored it. And it's kind of like, I was reading this book, this man was talking about how when his mother passed away, he lost all of his memories of her when she was alive. But it was like this black hole in his heart. He didn't want to, that was how he remembered her, that pain. And so, but that pain was causing a lot of issues in his other relationships because it was unprocessed. And so the minute he started to speak about her and share the pain, not only did he gain back his memories of her, but he was lighter because he gave it to God. He gave it up. He didn't have to be the one that, did it all. And I think that that's kind of what happens a lot in our lives. We think that so much about what we do rather than can we just be willing to look and surrender, look and give it back. Thank you for the lesson and pass it on. Coffee gives me a headache. Okay. Thank you for the lesson. Doesn't mean you're not going to do it tomorrow. You might still do it tomorrow.
Right. But I was just seeking that comfort. And when we just need to learn to be okay with being uncomfortable.
I find that it goes faster if we're willing to give it a seat at the table.
Yes. Yep. I also heard some lady talk the other day. She said that every time I have, like, say I lose someone or one of my pets, and I have this just deep, strong emotion, and it hurts. Like, it just feels like someone's cutting into your chest. She says, yes, I get through my sadness, but then I step out of it and I think I'm grateful that I'm able to feel this. And then it's just a whole nother way of looking at it. And what you were saying, that gives me a whole nother perspective on yoga, but then all the other aspects of life too. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. But I would love to speak about the divine time, that divine timing. I think that really resonated with me.
Everything is in divine time. Time in and of itself, in my, kind of the way I've understood the world and the way that I can kind of move through is to know that time in and of itself is an illusion. It's a construct created for learning. So if I'm frustrated that something isn't happening in my life, it's just, I can look at it two ways. I can stay in the frustration, or I can ask for guidance. like I know that, okay, this hasn't happened because maybe it's not the right time, but that can sometimes be a cop out. Oh, well, I'm just, God's got it. I don't have to do anything. Well, this is a collaboration, like, and that's what I gained also from yoga, is that we learn more and more how to collaborate with the divine. So it's like, what needs to be removed from my field so that I can receive more, whatever it is, love, money, health, friendship. Maybe it wasn't the right time for this, or maybe I'm in like a hard time. I recently had a situation with someone very close to me where we weren't speaking for a while, and it was really intense, but it needed time. And so it was in divine right time. It's like in A Course of Miracles, which I love that material. It speaks to everything is held in a trust. A miracle that we weren't ready for, a miracle is a shift in perception. So it's like, if I have something that I want to attract in my life, and when it came, I wasn't ready for it. And so I kind of, on some level, I pushed it away. And then later I realized in time that, oh my God, it was right there. And I didn't see it and I wasn't ready for it. We have two choices. We can sit in loss, but loss, again, is an illusion, because energy can't be destroyed. So it's there in the field. It's like a circle. It'll come right back around. It's held in a trust. What is yours and what is meant to be yours is held in a trust. It's just, how do I align myself to those frequencies? What needs to be removed? What needs to be enhanced? Maybe you have it, but you have a gift or a talent in your life that you want to share, but you've got these limiting beliefs about how you're not articulate, or you're not attractive, or whatever. You can't do A, B, and C. Well, that's what needs to be removed. Whatever you want is yours. Ask and you shall receive. It's there for us. But there's sometimes these barriers that, not sometimes, most of the time, I would say that we've got these barriers kind of placed around us that come from our adapted personalities, our protection. Can I really have this much love in my life? Can I really have this much fruit in my belly? Can I really be that wonderful of a mother or father or parent or friend? Can I really do that? Can I really trust that this person isn't going to disappoint me? If we're not waiting from the external because we're so involved with what's happening on the inner within ourselves, then we're not so attached to the outside showing up in a certain way. That's what I think in terms of divine timing. It's like, can we both be in the same place? Now, when we attract uncomfortable situations, or what we would call like, all the things, breakdowns in communication, all that, that's also perfect. That's also on purpose. We learn to be more and more neutral. And when I think of divine time, I think of like this, like, really peaceful kind of energy that knows what it is, that knows love, that knows who you are. And it's so patient, but we have autonomy. And so we need to choose that. So we need to find whatever is in our life that's preventing us from choosing that. And then slowly, cancel all those things out.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And we're even kind of talking about that in the chat right now with trusting the process of this whole, eating fruit and trusting our bodies so that our bodies can heal. And even though that process can be pretty rough and hard at a lot of times, especially if you're still in the matrix, but it's just, again, learning to be in the uncomfort and still being present and trusting the process.
Trusting the process is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every day, that's one of our operating instructions in our trainings and programs, is like, can I trust the process? Let's say you're doing a juice cleanse, or you're doing a yoga training, or whatever it is, like you're doing something to support yourself in better health on an emotional, spiritual, physical level, mental level. There's this part of our minds, when we call it the ego, we call it the inner critic, that is literally its whole purpose in life is guilt, you or somebody else's, distraction. It's all designed to take you out of your goal, your vision. And so when we talked about divine time, it's like there's that energy that's holding you and your enlightened self, super healthy, we're all working through health stuff because we're still in a body. We're still in this reality. And so sometimes we put all of this pressure on ourselves for things to happen faster. But the point is that when we're trusting the process, we're in the journey. If we just want it to be a certain way, it's like we can't skip ahead. We've got to go through the steps because it's cleansing each layer, not only of our physical, but our emotional and spiritual bodies. So, there's that. Trusting the journey, I think it's hard for a lot of us because we are so fragmented from our creator. And so we need to, our most important relationship is that collaboration. Did God tell you to fast? Or was it your ego saying you're not fasting enough? In our trainings, we say, trust the process, because a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to talk about this. Aren't we going to talk about standing poses right now? It's like, can you trust the process? You know what I mean? Can you trust that everything is in divine right order right now?
Yep. I think you can if you are living virtuously and you are building your daily arcs. And if you are just being the best version of yourself every day that you possibly can, knowing that things are going to come up, but it's how do you deal with those things when they come up now? How do you deal with that obstacle? When you first start climbing a mountain, it feels terrible. It's hard. You want to give up. But on your 10th or 12th journey up that mountain, it's not as hard. It's still hard, but it's not as hard because now you know the path.
Yeah.
But it's just learning.
And you trust yourself.
Yes.
You know that you can do it.
Yep. You trust yourself and you just have the faith to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yes. I love the whole divine time. And I know it's his time because time is just a construct of it, but I don't know, that really just was like a wake up for me. And I love those moments too, because I feel them. I feel them in my brain too, where I'm like, oh, that was it. Like another little thing connected or something. Like I just found another piece to my puzzle. But doesn't life feel like you're putting together a jigsaw puzzle upside down?
It sure can. It sure can.
But the closer you get, the more pieces you get, the more of it you can see coming together. And it's beautiful when you can step back and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And on some level, it's already put together.
Yes.
You're like, it's on some level, it's put together. I'm just moving into that because I'm still in the physical. I'm still in this reality. And so I think we need to give ourselves a pass. I say this to myself. I mean, anything I say, in a training or a yoga class or in a podcast or whatever, it's like, it's for me. It's like when we teach the classes, we're telling the students to breathe, but really who are we telling to breathe? Me. It's like, I need to breathe. I need to give myself some compassion. I need to give myself the time. Yes. It's like forcing a 1-year-old to run. Like, why are we doing that? Like, can we just trust that 1-year-old will run when it's time for him to run in the physical? On some level, in the spiritual realm, he doesn't even have legs. He's soaring. But for whatever reason, we chose to be here. And we've got a lot of stuff that we wanted to learn here. So whatever it is in us that's putting that pressure is not God. Mm-hmm. It's our own egoic construct. And so to the extent that we know that and we see that, then we can start to determine what vibration do I want to be in? Right. Who do I want to be? How do I want to talk to myself? So many yoga practitioners, teachers, coaches, all sorts of people are really good at supporting other people. And I think that's great, right? Like you're out there, rah, 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 shish kumbah. But then when it comes to you, you're really hard on yourself. Well, that's not authentic. Mm-hmm. There's a gap there. And that's why it really is a self-reflection practice where we need to be really conscious of where am I at? And can I turn that flashlight back on me? A lot of us, and me included, spend a lot of time out there. But out there is an illusion. It's a reflection of what's in here. So let me spend some more time in here. Someone said to me once, hello, you've been brainwashed. And I thought, you're right. I spend time every day washing my brain. Washing out, the old limiting beliefs that are just not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so this
Absolutely.
is what we need to be doing. You wash out your liver, you wash out your insides, you do an enema, you do your stuff.
Yeah.
But you also, what are you doing in between here? And that's
Right.
what meditation yoga is about. It's like, and whether you're doing it, classically or formally or whatever, just that you are aware that you are thinking is huge. Because most of us are just in the thinking mind, skipping from one thought to the next, reacting. And then when you're practicing, when you become more self-aware, you go, oh, okay, I see. I can only be responsible for my part in this. A lot of us are wanting to change the outside without changing our part in it. When we change our part, the outside changes.
Yep.
Hi.
Absolutely.
Looks like we have
I
new
know it
friends.
looks like Juan jumped on. I was real quick. I'm so sorry, but I do have to run. We have a tree issue and the guy just showed up. So thank you so much. And Toni, I dropped you a message in the chat. I didn't want to interrupt the show, but thank you so much, Marie. This is Juan here, and hi, Juan. But I'm going to have to jump off. Thank you so much for your gnosis, and I look forward to hearing more about what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice to meet
Sara.
you.
Till
Thank
soon.
you.
Okay, Juan, you showed up. So what would you like to share?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, everybody. And hi, Marie. I don't know if you remember me from a couple of years back. You were down in Mexico, and I can remember you were decoding the book of Matthew. I'm a JV, so I don't recollect. We used to kind of be in the chat together,
Hi.
but yeah, Juan.
Nice to
But
meet you.
yeah, I just wanted to jump on and say hi. And I did do a little yoga before. I started doing Tai Chi and yoga around the same time. And I kind of leaned a little bit more towards Tai Chi, but it really reminds me a lot that we could use yoga, like you were saying about just like tightening up your belly button and whatnot. I use that in Tai Chi. That some of the things that I learned about the breathing techniques and stuff like that. The class that I was taking was called Kundalini yoga. So it seems like there's probably different styles of yoga. What's the type of yoga that you use?
Ashtanga Vinyasa. So, and I love Kundalini yoga. I think there's some really magnetic practices in there, really transformational and clearing practices in that. Yoga, Tai Chi, I was telling the trainers the other day, what are we really doing? You're clearing the field around you. We're more than a physical. We have energy around us, and a lot of us have a lot of heebie-jeebies around us. And so in Tai Chi, what are you doing? You're moving excess out of your field. And so in yoga, like for example, if we're doing warrior pose, you've got your arms up here, and then you open up your arms to here, you're clearing the field. And then you move to the triangle. You're just moving the energy away. And so any practice that you can commit to, sitting in your chair, taking a few breaths, lifting your arms up, folding forward, those are all beneficial. I think sometimes we think, well, it has to be like whatever, but I think a little bit goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you now?
I'm in Ohio. I'm back in my hometown, and it's been really wonderful actually to be surrounded by family and old friends and getting back into the community here. And it's been really healing. It was beautiful in Mexico. We certainly miss it at times, but it ran its course.
Ah, that's wonderful. Yeah. And your husband is Danny, right?
Yes,
Yeah. And then you have a couple of kids.
we do. We have an
Okay.
8-year-old and a 6-year-old. They're really cute. Really good.
All right. Yeah.
Little yummies.
I'm just trying to catch up. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be back in the mix. I took some time off, moving, and then I've been on my own healing journey, and it just felt like it was time to kind of unplug from the YouTube world and just being online. I set my business down. I set everything down. was a really intense time for the whole planet. I think we all kind of were like, wait, what? So I think it took some time for me to integrate. And again, we were talking about divine timing. If it's all in divine right order, then there is no loss, then we can set a project down and pick it back up when our body and soul are more aligned to it. And that's what seems to be occurring now. Slowly but surely, I'm getting more guidance from the inner to get more involved again. But I was excited. Thank you, Toni, for inviting me here. Certainly not consistent, with getting online, but it's fun to kind of tap back in and see some of the old cats around.
Yeah, we need your wisdom. Now, I have something else that came to mind because in the last year, when people talk about yoga, you hear the new age thing coming up. You hear coming up, yoga is evil because it opens portals to whatever it is. And I'm like, how can that even be? Do you have some insight about that?
I mean, I think the portals to evil are already open. And I think the practice of yoga is clearing those portals. So that I would say it would be the opposite. I think people that are afraid and that know the power in some of the ancient practices of yoga, Tai Chi, Chinese medicine. I mean, we were so smart. We used to be so smart. Humanity we used to know how to take care of ourselves. And over time, we've forgotten and we've lost sight of what's important. And so the people that are out there going, oh, it's opening portals and, all of that. I mean, yoga it can bring up a lot of discomfort. We talked about that earlier. It can also highlight our fear. And so if you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, here I am chanting Om and, what is this about? I think that really this is a practice of moving from fear to love. And so when you feel the fear, you can tag it to yoga or you can tag it to whatever you want, but really it's yours. And so like you're the one who gets to either let it go or keep blaming it on something else. If yoga is not for you, it's not for you, but I can't understand, especially in the spiritual community, why this conversation, the themes that we're discussing, how that could be opening to the negative when it's simply addressing the negative, acknowledging it's here, but in and of itself, it's an illusion because it's not from God. So it's not sustainable. In the reality of love, it does not exist. There is only love and fear. So if I'm in fear, I'm in the illusion. So if I'm in the illusion, I'm not in love. And how do I get back to love? Well, yoga, Tai Chi, drinking juice, meditating, taking a walk on the beach, playing, catch with your kid, doing a puzzle, whatever those things is, are those evil? Is doing a puzzle to relax the mind an evil practice? I mean, that's kind of where I go with it. I just don't understand because it's not real. So like, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you're allowed to think that. How's that serving you? Are you in the state of peace and equanimity? Because that is our natural state of being. And I can't say that enough in any forum that I have the privilege of being in, is that yoga is about equanimity of mind. And if I'm not in equanimity of mind, meaning if I'm not fully present and at peace right now, I'm in judgment, I'm pointing my finger, I'm saying this is wrong, then I'm not in the state of love, which means I'm in the illusion. I'm in fear. And so many people are in fear saying they're not in fear. That's fearful. It's like, well, if I'm calling that, then I'm in fear. And I've done this, so I can say it, and then when I take a good hard look at myself, I'm like, well, was I in the state of peace? No, the answer is no, I wasn't. I was in the illusion. I got caught in the illusion. The yogis call it the wheel of samsara. I'm in the hamster wheel. I'm just spinning and spinning and spinning. So what do we need? Boom, moksha, freedom. So whatever you can do to stop that wheel is yoga. We might not call it that, but it is in my understanding of the world.
I think that in the last 100 years, we have been deliberately called away from anything that is good for us. and being brainwashed by whatever is on TV. And I mean, 10 years ago, I'd never heard that yoga would have been bad. It's something in the last few years. So I kind of see that as a way to keep us away from whatever is good, and you just, have to let it go. And this is where you go with the divine plan that whatever, I think you said something in that little short video, it is the divine plan, it will be done. And
Yeah.
so whatever is necessary to happen will happen.
Mhm.
And we just, in that way, we trust the plan, and we know what feels good for us. And it's something that trust the plan is the same to me now as trust your intuition. And I really had to learn that. And I had to learn to get all the negativity out of my mind, which has been quite a journey. And it is something, I'm still working on it every day, but it's not as bad as it was, because you get so inundated with and especially now with the internet and all the truthers groups and whatever is out there with contradictory information. So to get your message out, I think it is extremely important. So I hope you will be doing a lot more of these chats and videos. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I'm working on a platform that will be gardenofeden.social. And we've had some amazing people in these podcasts that I feel like they should have their own section, so that people who are seeking for life's truths, as in health and happiness, and yeah, they should be there. So it's all easy to find. We don't have to go like, oh, this is over there, and this is on YouTube, this is on Rumble. This is on Facebook. I'm just, considering the platform that I'm building. It's all there. This is where we can find it. It's in the Garden of Eden. So I hope you will be able to be part of that also.
Thank you. It's a returning home. The garden is a returning home. And that is the will of God. The will of God. I truly, truly know this in myself. That is perfect happiness. And so a lot of people in, spiritual circles would be like, oh no, it's, that's silly. It's not about happiness. That's so selfish. That's, well, whatever they're going to say. But our happiness is our health. Our happiness is our peace. And that's what the divine wants for us. We're the ones that have wanted something else. And so that's what we're learning right now, is that we were choosing the illusion, and now we're choosing the truth. And the truth is returning us home to the garden. It's like that song, we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. I think it's Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It's like, that's what these practices are all about. That's what these conversations are about. How do we get home to that place of peace within ourselves is the goal of yoga, is the goal of life. I think that's really what it's about.
So, so the kingdom of heaven is within. But we're all learning. It has been a difficult, in a way, it has been a difficult few years, the last 3 years, but it also opened our minds up to so much more. That is at least how I feel it. And I have been more at peace than I've ever been in my whole life.
Great. I mean, that's what it's about. It's like, let's just sit in our seat of wisdom, sit in peace, love on the people, take care of ourselves, take care of our families, and know that that's enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't see any more questions. Oh, I see Joni Mitchell mentioned here.
Yes, it is Joni.
Yeah.
Joni wrote this song. You're right. It's and there's that other line, if you smile at me, I will understand, because that is something everybody everywhere does in the same language. So good.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a funny yoga story, if that's okay.
Sure.
Well, this was like a class, and it was unusually a large class, and it was And this was the best time I ever had at yoga. What happened was, we were doing this one stretching pose, and then somebody farted in the class, and it was just so hilarious. Everybody just kind of just laughed, and then some people were making comments, and it was really funny. I know it might sound a little gross, but it's a bodily function, but I just thought that the energy, because we all share this energy when we're in the class together, but when that happened, I just started cracking up. Everybody in the whole class. That was the funnest time I can recollect out of doing yoga. But I just thought I would tell my little funny story.
My gosh, Juan, is that the only thing you remember from yoga?
No, I just like to be funny sometimes,
When I hear that about farting, I'm thinking like, oh, you got to change something in your diet. Got to get to all fruits, combine it correctly. Yeah, it's funny. Okay, guys, we reached the top of the hour, a little over it even. I want to thank everybody for being here again, and thank you so much, Marie, for joining us here and sharing everything that you know. It's I learned a lot again, do every day, but especially today. A little about the platform. I wanted to do a soft launch starting on March the 1st. I'm not going to make that. I want to have more content to offer to people, so it's going to be a little longer before I'm going to open up the platform, but I will keep everyone posted. And send me an email if you have ideas about it, because I don't know it all. I know nothing. So it's I can use all the help that you are willing, everyone here that's willing to offer. My email is healthywithfruit@gmail.com. And for anyone, I'm repeating it again, it's all Marie's information is in the show notes at the bottom. 3 ways to get in touch with her. And well, again, thank you everyone for being here, and I would say till the next time.
Thank you, Toni. Thank you, Marie.
Bye-bye.
Nice seeing you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Love
Bye
you.
for now. Love you guys. Thank you, Toni. Bye.